Hello, I'm Ophelia.
And I'm Matthew.
Welcome to Art Mood. We're doing this art channel to share the joy of looking at art, which can be historical, contemporary, paintings, sculptures, or even photography. We'll be choosing a different theme for each month, and in this episode, we'll look at William Hogarth, The Rake's Progress. So please join us or leave us a message if you like what we do. And so, William Hogarth, what do we know about this artist, Matthew?
Well, he was born in London in 1697. He worked as an engraver and he liked watching people. He would often draw and sketch people, either just on paper or even on his fingernails sometimes.
Fingernails.
Yeah, apparently. I was watching a documentary about him recently, and it's quite fascinating. And actually, maybe at the end of the episode, I'll bring up the name of the documentary if anyone's interested. So from engravings, it evolved into oil paintings, where he would paint conversation pieces, and then he started doing kind of satire paintings. Maybe similar to the ones you would see in something like a newspaper or the New Yorker. Maybe someone like Gerald Scarfe or something. Yeah.
So he was born in 1697, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned engraver, but so when did he start to learn painting?
That's a good question. Actually, I should have noted that down. Because apparently it was later. He wanted to go into art school, but he said in one point in his life that Covent Garden, or at least London, was like his art school. So he sort of just learned it by just practicing himself. If that makes
So
sense.
he started as an engraver, right?
Yes.
And then I think he started painting around 1724.
Ah.
And so, like you said, he's a very observant, and he was known to be, ingenious.
Hmm.
And actually, he opened a whole new genre in art.
Hmm.
And usually his art is full of hypocrisy, corruption, human folly.
Hmm.
And a lot of them, even today, his subjects are very symbolic and topical.
Hmm. Yes.
So in this series, we selected actually 5 works of Hogarth, and which will be covered in 4 episodes. And so we hope you enjoy the humor and intelligence of Hogarth as much as we do.
Hmm.
And for this first episode, we picked the Rake's Progress. So the Rake's Progress, there are 7. Well, originally it's engravings, 7 pieces, and it's what do we know about the Rake's Progress, Matthew?
Well, essentially, it's a series of it's a series. It's a narrative. Sorry. It's a series of paintings telling of a story, particularly about a young man that finds wealth, and it's quite fascinating. And I think you guys will enjoy it too. You can actually find the paintings at the moment at the Sir John Soane Museum in London, but you can only see them certain times of the day. I went to the museum myself, but I couldn't actually see them this time. But next time you guys go to that particular museum, please take a look at them personally.
Yeah, those paintings are very fragile, so I think they're usually not put in display.
Yes.
And it's a very interesting name, the Rake's Progress.
Yes.
And a rake usually describes someone who's inherited a large fortune, leads a desolate life, and then abandon young pregnant women, and eventually wastes his life disillusioned or from venereal diseases. And when we look at the Rake's Progress, it's like an oxymoron. Because it cannot be a progress. Well, a progress to be doomed, I guess.
Mm-mm.
And The Rake's Progress is a sequel to Harlot's Progress,
Mm.
where the protagonist was a female. So this progress, the Rake's Progress, is quite important because it's actually the first copyright law.
Yes, you're right. Yes, I
So yeah, and what happened was the Harlot's Progress was very popular, and so Hogarth made the Rake's Progress, the male version, and because it was such a success, like merchandise, so people start to reproduce them, and as you know, reproductions are usually very inferior, and it affects Hogarth's reputations. So he lobbied to gain greater control, and this eventually became the first copyright law in 1735,
wow.
where it's the first thing to deal with visual works and recognition of the right of an individual artist.
Mm-mm.
So this put Hogarth in a very favorable position as an independent artist who can engrave, paint, and make prints.
Mm-mm.
So Hogarth waited until the law passed before he published the Rake's Progress.
Yes, very true. Um,
So how do we well, what else do we know? Well, the Rake's Progress is very successful because it's been made into opera, and then even David Hockney, one of the most famous British artists in the 20th century, also made a version of the Rake's Progress, or a modern version.
mm,
So, well, let's look at the Rake's Progress now.
mm.
And
Oh,
what is the name?
mm,
Well, the Rake.
yes. I actually just very briefly. Apparently, he made these paintings as a way of having a conversation with people that visit his house. So they would just be kind of laden around the house.
Mm.
But apparently, the subject was too distressing for him to be around the house. So he'd often just have these panels that went over the painting most of the day. So maybe some of this topic today might be a bit difficult for some, but I want you guys to try and hang in there. It's quite an interesting set of paintings, so yeah, let's look at them together.
So the
Yeah.
first plate, or the first painting in the series, is the air.
Mm.
And we can see that this young man, he's been measured, so he's preparing to have a new suit, right?
Mm.
Or tailor made.
Mm.
Well, air, because he's supposed to live in a very nice house, but it looks a bit gloomy
Mm. Mm.
and untidy, right?
Mm.
And what do you think that lady on the left hand side? She's upset, right?
Yes. So the main character, he was previously engaged to a woman called Sarah Young. And I suppose when he landed into money, he just lost interest in her. And he was already engaged to this lady, and this lady is very upset that you know he's not keeping to his promise. You can actually see that the lady closest to the main character actually has a something like a bag full of like envelopes. If I can just zoom in. Yeah. Apparently, the envelopes of all the letters he sent to her, promising that he was going to marry her. And on the left, the lady on the furthest left is holding a ring. It might be kind of hard to see, but just in her hand, she's got like a ring. And there's actually other stuff going on.
So
Uh,
the main character is Tom, and
yes,
so this is this is his fiance, right?
yes.
And you can see them. That's the mother. The mother is like pointing at the fiance's tummy. So
Ah,
she's
yes.
pregnant, right? And then all the letters, the love letters that he wrote to her, and then it seems like he wants, you know, doesn't want to be responsible for anything, and Tom refuses to marry Sarah and then trying to pay them off.
Mm-mm.
So let's look at number 2, the
All
picture
right.
2.
Okay. So, here we have Tom kind of rubbing elbows with the rich and famous.
And what is the name of this painting or this
It
top
is
picture?
called the Levy or Levy. I'm sure I'm
Mm.
mispronouncing that.
Yeah, the levee. It's
Levy.
called. It's actually French, so it means rising.
Yeah.
So aristocrats, they will always wake up in the morning with an audience.
Mm.
Usually includes musicians, merchants, tradesmen, kind
Mm.
of like to entertain them while
Mm.
they prepare for the day. And
Mm.
here we see that Tom is trying to live a life like an aristocrat.
Mm. Mm. You can see a guy on the right talking to Tom. Apparently, it's a bodyguard that's asking Tom if he's interested in hiring him as a, you know, like a
Hmm.
personal bodyguard. And you have a guy on the far right at the bottom who's holding a trophy with a horse on it. Apparently, a jockeying trophy. And what else? If there's anything else you guys notice, let us know. But that's the main part of this painting, I suppose.
Now there are paintings, there are musicians playing the piano. So it's a very grand kind of like rising
Yes,
living.
yes.
So he's trying to make himself and surround himself like vanity, I guess.
Yes.
Let's look at the number 3.
Yeah. So his life seems like it's going well.
Yeah, he seems like happy.
Yeah.
Oh, and this one here,
Oh yeah.
what is it called? It's the
Well, there's two names for it. There's Wild Party and there's The Orgy.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, it fits this piece very well.
Mm.
So it's a disheveled scene.
Yes.
And
Uh.
Tom looks absolutely exhausted after the wild night, right?
Mm. Mm. Yeah, his clothes are a mess, and apparently there's two women who are robbing him without his knowledge. You can see here
Mm.
that one woman is seducing him, and another woman is taking his stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, and there's quite a number of things going on here.
You
Like,
can we see some women with like black spots.
yes, that
So
was.
it's
Mm,
very like common in those days is to cover up syphilis sores.
mm, exactly.
So we know that this is like a brothel
Mm, mm,
with wild party and men like gambling and playing and a lot of ladies there.
mm, mm.
So Tom is going downhill, right?
Oh,
After
absolutely.
like getting inherited a big amount of wealth
Mm,
and
mm,
then living a life like an aristocrat and then now partying.
mm,
We're supposed to he parties every night, right? Or every day.
mm, mm. There's also this lady that's burning a map in the back, and on the map you can
Mm.
see something that says "Totus Mundus." Apparently, it's from the phrase "Totus Mundus agit historianum," and I'm pretty sure I butchered that, which means all the world's a stage.
What does that mean?
I suppose like life and fiction and non-fiction, life and drama, like a theater, is quite similar to each other. You know.
So the reality and um fantasy is blurred.
Exactly. Yeah. Because we can look at this and we can also see maybe there's a lot of people that we've heard of who've kind of done this sort of thing. People that became very wealthy very quick, and
Yeah.
their life is kind of taking a nosedive because of bad investments and such.
Mm.
And it's something that could easily be avoided because there's a lot of stories where this sort of thing happens, but it happens
Mm.
in real life a lot. So So life mirrors these fictional stories, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Mm.
Shall we look at the next slide?
Sure. Okay. So his
This is
life
not
is,
not easily you can easily tell like what is happening here, right?
yeah. Um. So essentially, I mean, if I miss out anything, please let me know. This one is called um, "The Arrest" or "The Blessing of Tom" by Sarah. Essentially, um, he was arrested because he owed a lot of people money, which is very big deal. Like you'd just be taken to a specific prison for that, um, which sort of mirrored Hogarth's father, who also was taken to prison for accumulating debt. And we see here that we have Sarah Young from the first painting, the woman that he was supposed to marry, actually helping him get out of being arrested. Is there anything else I missed?
Well, Tom looks quite distressed, right? Under the blue sky.
Mm.
And then I think this man above him is like pouring oil, like
Ah,
no, it's
yes.
almost dripping on him,
Mm-mm.
which makes this, even more distressed for
Yeah,
him.
yeah. Apparently, the oil dripping on him kind of represents something to do with good luck. In I guess in the old days, so
Hmm.
being anointed with oil was considered a blessing.
Oh, so we got that's why it's this Sarah Young blessing.
Yes, exactly. And it's kind of hard. It's kind of easy to miss this, but on the very left at the bottom, you see a short man actually stealing Tom's cane.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, Actually, this is one of the few paintings where it's quite different compared to the etching. With the etching, there's a few other things happening, and some of them happen in a different way.
Hmm.
Like the short man there steals something else, for example.
Hmm.
Yeah, but we'll look at the etchings later. We can kind of compare if we have time.
Well, let's look at the next slide.
All right. So, what's going to happen next? Okay.
So
Uh,
here we see Tom
mhm.
looking very elegant, but it seems like she's going to marry this old lady, right?
Yeah.
But he wasn't even looking at his to be wife. He was looking at the servant,
Yes.
young girl,
Mm-mm.
like fixing the dress of the old lady. So he's into deep debt and he needs to get out of it. So his only way out is to marry an old wealthy woman.
What's the name of this particular piece?
This is well, what I found is just the marriage, but I'm sure there's another name for it.
Oh, yeah. Tom marries an old maid.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here we can see again the background far away. We see two figures there. One is like holding up her fist, and that's Sarah's mother.
Yes.
And Sarah is there holding the baby. That's Tom's baby. And so, well, the mother is very upset that
Mm-hmm.
Tom is still not marrying her daughter.
Very true. Yeah. It's a bit blurry in this one, but in the etching it's a bit more clearer. And later we can take a look. Um,
So for some of the information, this particular, I think it was made into etchings first, right? Was it?
I could be wrong, but I think the paintings came first and the etchings came a year later.
Ah, so that's why the painting was more like a sketch then, isn't it?
Yes. So the etchings are, I suppose, better versions of the paintings, if that makes sense.
And then so that he can reproduce them, right?
Yes.
To make them into merchandise.
Exactly. Yeah. What else? Did we miss anything here? Um, Apparently there's something about the Ten Commandments here, but I couldn't find it. So yeah, I think because the picture's kind of blurry, so it's kind of hard to make out everything.
Mm.
Yeah, but yeah. Um,
Let's look at the next slide.
yeah. Oh, okay. So kind of hard to tell right away, but Tom here is going to a gambling house, and
He
there's
looks he looks well, he kneels down, right? You can see, and then he looks up as if he's been cheated off at the gaming table and complained about his luck.
yes,
But
exactly.
you can see that house is full of addicted gamblers.
Yes,
So everyone's smoke. Well, actually, there's smoke
yes,
coming out, and nobody actually noticed it, right? Everyone's like deep into the games.
yes, exactly.
There's actually a fire going on,
Mm,
and nobody noticed it.
mm. No one is happy to be there. Everyone's kind of just I don't know. Like it's kind of just chaos. If you can see in the back, there's actually some people that might be fighting, and there's only one person in the back that actually notices the smoke, but everyone else is kind of no, actually no. Wait, this guy also, the guy in the middle. I think he might have noticed, but
That's more or less the same as in today's casino, right? Like, I mean, it's not always about winning, right? In casinos,
yeah.
I mean, people are always deep into the games and really focusing on the cards or the chips, and
Mm-mm.
then somebody loses, somebody wins, and
Mm-mm. It's true. I think to a number of people, it's more the thrill, you know.
mm,
Um, Also, it's we didn't mention this, but Tom just I know that back in the day, people would often just wear wigs,
mm,
and it's kind of weird seeing him without a wig. Actually, I guess it just shows how far he's kind of fallen, because a wig
yeah,
was kind of a sign of you know wealth. People would wear
mm,
those fancy white wigs, and but now you see he's just this bald guy cursing someone that he's cursing his fate, like, oh, I lost all my money, you know.
yeah,
Yeah, it's quite an interesting piece, kind of a little dark in terms of like lighting, but yeah.
mm.
The etching is a little bit brighter so we can make out more details, but we'll
Mm.
check it later. Okay, so what's gonna happen next? I don't know. Let's check it out. Okay. um do you want to go, do you want to talk about it first, or
Well, you can go ahead if you
okay,
want.
yeah, okay, fair enough. So yeah, so now he's finally in prison. um he owes money to a lot of people and they caught up with him, and he's still surrounded by people that are asking him for money. You have this gentleman up here with a book who's asking him for money, a guy on the bottom left asking him for money, and apparently even his current wife is, well, she's not asking for money, but she is pretty angry that she's in jail with him. And she's also lost some weight, I guess. And
Nobody's happy with him, right? Like you can see everyone's around him is very upset and they're all making different demands.
yes,
And you can see his eyes like popping out and his
yes,
fingers are very tense and even his shoulders are all tense and doesn't know what's going on. Like everyone's asking him for something or
mm-mm,
blaming him for something. And it's a very chaotic place too.
mm.
You can see, I don't know, someone's like fainting, right?
Yes. So Tom's losing it, and his ex fiance Sarah Young sees this, and I guess she can't handle it, and she faints.
Mm,
And there's all these people trying to wake her up. Someone puts smelling salts to the nose, and there's a young girl um, shaking Sarah Young. I assume it's, you know, Tom and Sarah's child.
Mm.
Yeah. She's also kind of her clothing is quite loose, quite disheveled.
Mm.
Because she fainted, so they kind of loosen her clothing so she can breathe easier. And during the set of paintings we've been looking at, she's always looked quite composed, even when something was going wrong. But this is the
Mm.
first shock she's really received, which has made her look very out of it.
Mm.
Yes, and apparently there's a guy in the middle here who's apparently doing alchemy. And from what I read, it's he's not really there. He's kind of a figment of Tom's imagination, apparently. But I don't know.
What
Um,
is the what
so,
do you mean by like
oh, the guy in the middle. Do you see him?
yeah, I
Yeah.
know I mean alchemy, but you said like it's Tom's mind or
Yes.
it's his reflection
Yes.
of turning
Um.
something into gold, right? In vain.
Yes. Exactly. Bingo. He's just so like obsessed with just getting out of this situation. It's a little hard to see it with this painting, but on the table is this small piece of paper.
Mm.
You can't see it in this version, but on the etching you actually see it's a letter from someone saying that they've turned down his idea of a play. Pretty much he was writing a
Mm.
story that was going to be turned into a play, hoping that he would get money from doing that. But the person he handed it to sent a letter back saying that it's not good. We don't want it.
Mm.
So he's just really, really stuck.
Well, let's look at the final
Yep.
painting,
Okay. So this one is called. What is it called?
the madhouse.
Yes.
So Tom is here, naked, lying on the floor, and it seems like he's holding a fist and then hurting himself.
Mm, mm,
And you can see that it's yeah, madhouse.
mm,
And beside him again, it's Sarah,
mm,
weeping helplessly and
mm,
never leaving him behind. And there are a lot of other people
mm,
who has lost their minds here.
mm, mm,
But we see two very beautiful and elegant figures there.
mm.
So they're walking there.
Yeah.
And you might think like, why are there, such like, elegant people there
Mm,
walking and, looking around? Are they mad people too? Actually, in those days, it's very common for like aristocracy to go to madhouses to. It might seem like a bit, you know, weird now or disturbing, but it's actually very common for them to go there for amusement to go to madhouse. So this set out the irony of itself that Tom began, after inherited his wealth, he began to mimic an aristocratic lifestyle, the new suit and the levee. But at the end, he was the entertainment.
mm. Yeah. Um. He also seems to be chained down, and it's hard to kind of tell from this painting, but apparently he has tried to hurt himself a few times. Hence why he's chained and why he's not wearing clothes,
Mm,
because
yeah.
it's a way to not hurt himself. And the man that's near him is kind of trying to prevent Sarah Young from getting too close to him.
Mm,
Yeah, there's quite a yeah, and yeah, it was interesting reading about the rich people going to the madhouse to see the patients.
yeah.
Very fascinating. I mean, I know maybe those times were kind of boring, so you had to kind of make your own entertainment, but it's still
Yeah,
kind
I
of a
guess
way.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, people have different entertainments, right, back then and even now. I
Mm-mm.
mean, there's no TV, no Netflix, nothing in those days.
Mm-mm.
People just go around,
Mm-mm.
even fishing or walking as a kind of like entertainment. But now, you know,
Mm.
It's just all sorts of things people can do.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, people still like to watch people do or say crazy things on TV with a
Yeah.
lot of reality shows and stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
not all that different, I guess. Um, so yes. What else? Oh, one last thing. Apparently, the hospital he's in is called the Bethlehem Hospital, which is apparently still around. So you can actually check it out. And apparently, there's a very popular sculpture there called the Figure of Raving Madness.
Mm.
And you can actually see Tom in the same exact pose as that statue that is actually located in the hospital. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Mm.
Yeah. What else?
Shall we
Yes.
look at some etchings?
Oh yeah. Let's do
Or
that.
towards the end?
Yeah.
So that's the card. The paintings are the originals. So it was like, so these are the etchings that's more refined.
Mm. Yeah.
But they're all more or less the same.
Yeah.
It's just they're
Mm.
much more refined. Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah. There's a lot more details, a lot more things to pick
Yes,
out. Yeah.
yes.
Although
It's clear.
hmm, I noticed that in Etching 4 there's a bit more going on. There's a lightning bolt in the background. Um,
So he adjusted it
yeah.
and added some other things.
Mm. And it's these people fighting in the foreground. Not fighting, I don't know. Maybe doing some sort of business here. And you can see a person stealing something from Tom, but it's not the cane, it's something else. That,
Mm.
yeah. So these were made like a year after the paintings.
Mm.
So they're a little better. There's a bit more going on. Yeah. But yeah.
There's two more slides, or
Uh, just a
oh, the
moment.
last two are not here. Maybe
Can you see it?
not really.
Yeah.
Okay, so, anyways,
The the computer acted kind of weird.
yeah.
Okay.
So, what do you like? What do you think about today's work? Today's piece of work. I
Mm.
mean, the piece of art.
Mm.
Uh,
Oh right.
What do you like
Yes.
about it?
Sorry. Um, I kind of liked seeing Sarah Young.
Mm.
Um, she loved this guy so much, even though he's just been just really horrible to her.
Mm.
And I don't know. There's something kind of endearing about it, I guess.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. It's nice. I guess it's kind of pure. I like it, but I don't know. What about you?
I think the moral of the painting is very topical, which we can all understand. There's nothing much has changed throughout all these years,
Mm.
right? It's like it's about undying love, Sarah's unrequited love, vanity, gambling, devotion, stories that don't gamble, don't spend your time in brothels, and all these kind of things.
Mm.
So
That's true. That's
it's very
true.
impressive, I think.
Mm.
So we hope that you enjoyed this episode. And if you have any comments or feedback, please leave us a message. And we'll be looking at another painting by William Hogarth next week at the same time. And if you like what we do, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel under the same name. And have a good evening or a good day ahead, wherever you are. And we look forward to you joining us next week again.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.